Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra, and today I have an amazing person with me. It is my friend, Steffany Farros. Steffany is a UX researcher. We met a long time ago in San Francisco days at USF and have known each other ever since. Hi, Steffany.
Hey, little dot.
Oh my gosh. I have like 1,000 nicknames. It's kind of out of control. Oh my goodness. Recently, side note, recently I've been seeing a lot of like Dave Chappelle references or like clips online. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so random. Um, yeah, Dave Chappelle was really huge when we were I was gonna say when we were growing up, when we were
Yeah. We were
in San Francisco back in the day.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so in the podcast, I'm really focusing on culture and sort of like redefining Latina culture, kind of unpacking that because I think for so many of us, our identity is very complex, and depending on where we grew up, who we were around, uh, family dynamics, etc., some of us may or may not have felt as perhaps connected to Latinidad, or even trying to understand like how do we define Latinidad. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you want to kind of share a little bit of your background and kind of like how you understand these concepts, that would be awesome.
So I guess I can just start by saying, yeah, I live in Berlin right now, but I grew up in this town called Livermore, California, which, as I mentioned before, is mostly renowned for Lawrence Livermore Labs, and it has the longest burning light bulb in the continuous US. It's still burning. It's in the firehouse.
Wow.
And then you and I met obviously when we went to USF together, or no, you were a resident
I was
advisor.
working as a resident minister. I had just graduated. Yeah. I had
Yeah.
just graduated undergrad at Loyola Marymount, and I
Yeah.
started working at USF summer 2004.
Yeah. And and I got there, I want to say January 2005, maybe
That makes sense.
somewhere
Yeah.
along 2005 or 2006, somewhere along there.
Yeah.
And since then, I moved to Berlin, Germany about 11 years ago.
Oh my
It's kind of
gosh.
crazy that it's
It's
been
been
that long.
11 years? Oh, wow.
11 years.
It's
Yeah,
insane.
August 2013.
Wow.
And my nana and nono, they immigrated from Argentina to the US in the 19 somewhere around the 1950s. So,
Mhm.
as we were saying before, I mean, I never really thought that I could claim the label or the term Latina for myself,
Mm.
because for a bunch of different reasons. Like one of them is I'm white. I'm exceptionally white presenting. All of my family is. Argentina is one of the whitest countries. In fact, it is probably the whitest country in South America.
Mm.
It has a huge German and Italian population. Like
Yes.
I meet people in Berlin every day who are from Argentina and they have Italian passports.
Wow, that's incredible.
I did actually meet one. I actually went on one date with this Argentinian guy a couple of months ago, and he had a German passport actually,
Oh, how
because
funny. Wow.
his grandmother had immigrated from Germany for she was Jewish. So she immigrated
Mhm.
from Germany to Argentina. And then he ended up with the German passport. But usually the Argentinians, they've got the Italian passport,
Wow, yeah.
which is much different from the rest of, let's say, South America.
Yeah.
Um, and but I think the hardest thing was that my mom married a white guy who he's actually half Greek, but she married a white guy, and we didn't speak Spanish in the house really.
Mhm.
For a small period of time when I was a child, my nana and my nono lived with us, and during this time we would speak more Spanish.
Mhm.
But I think like the nail in the coffin really came when not only my grandparents moved out of the house, um, but when like I would get made fun of so much at school when
Mm.
my classmates heard my mother speaking Spanish to me. Like it feels very much as though in the 90s, if you were speaking any language other than English, I don't like the kids just found a way to make that this big drama,
Deal.
this big deal, because all of a
Yeah.
sudden you were singled out, you were othered, like maybe you weren't even really American. And
Hmm.
I mean, any excuse for kids to make fun of other kids, right?
Yep.
But as a result of that, I remember telling my mother, like, please don't ever speak to me in that language ever again.
Mm.
And she
Wow.
said to me, you'll regret this one day. And of course, I think at most I was 7, 6 or 7.
Hmm.
And of course I said to her, like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I won't. Everybody here speaks English. What's the problem? And now I've moved to a different country, and granted it's Germany, it's not Spain, but now I've moved to a different country, and anytime I tell a European this story, they're just like, what the hell is wrong with America? Like,
Oh, I mean, yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
um but yeah, I'm still, one of my greatest regrets is that, like, I could I understand Spanish.
Hmm.
It has to be, a more Argentinian dialect for me to like get it like
Yeah.
perfectly, because that's what I grew up listening to, and my
Hmm.
Spanish isn't fluent. So I can understand Spanish. If I like go to Spain, I'm fine. I'm not conversational,
Hmm.
but I never got to have a conversation with either of my grandparents in their native language, like a
Mm.
full on conversation. And they're both dead now. They both died about 5 years ago, and I'll never have that
Mm.
opportunity. And that's something that I do think about all the time, that
Yeah, that's hard.
I, out of this kind of honestly pretty ridiculous fear, or
Mm.
through the teasing of my classmates, I denied myself this connection with my grandparents, and ultimately with a lot of my relatives in Argentina, because it was
Mm.
only my grandparents and then my aunt and uncle, tio and tia, who moved to the United States. Everybody else stayed in
Mhm.
Argentina. So I have
Right.
relatives who don't speak or
Majority.
speak English.
Mhm.
And when I
Mhm.
go and visit them, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all good, like I
Make
said,
it work, but yeah.
communicate in Spanish,
Yeah.
but I can't just automatically like switch between the two languages. And there is
Yeah.
something about that I find. I mean, I'm honestly, I blame myself. Like, I know I was like 6 or 7, and I just
Mm.
didn't want to get made fun of. But I feel a
Mhm.
lot like, if I hadn't said that to my mom, if I hadn't allowed these children's comments to get to me in the way that they did, then I would have
Mm.
this other language at my disposal. And it feels a lot
Yeah.
more like I would be able to connect with that part of myself in a different way. Because I mean, like, language is in a lot of ways like the gateway to a culture. I feel like it's language and food.
Yeah, it's hard.
These
Language and food are huge.
language
Yeah.
and food.
Mhm. 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 Wow. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. Yeah, it's so interesting. I really appreciate you sharing your story because it's interesting, right? Like I understand that there's a lot of folks out there for different reasons that they didn't get to learn Spanish, etc. And I'm going to try to articulate this well. So, speaking Spanish is not the end all be all of being Latina, right? Okay.
Of course.
However, I think that your story really reflects how it was the language that would have been really helpful in terms of like that family, interaction and connection. That's real. You know what I mean? Like that's real. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing. It's true. And unfortunately, kids do a lot of bullying. It's very cruel. In my family, like there were instances of like bullying and things like that. Like I may have mentioned in a different episode that my uncles were beaten in school for speaking Spanish. This was in probably like the 60s, 70s, things like that. My speaking of language, my maternal grandmother babysat me a lot as a young kid, and she didn't speak any English, right? She did not from Guatemala, right? She didn't speak any English at all. So it was like, you know, being around her, the only way that I could like ask for like, hey, can I have some juice? I had to do it in Spanish, right? And playing it's funny games too, like playing loteria, which is like a great
Yeah.
game. That's kind of like how I started learning words and stuff. But yeah, it's those little things, right? The kids being mean at school, the kids commenting, teachers saying weird things. Another person that I had conversation with on the podcast, they were putting ESL because even, they were Latina but didn't speak Spanish, but they were putting ESL, right? All these strange, in other words, like all these strange things that happen around language or identity that really do,
Or simply
you know,
just
they
assumptions,
shape us. Yeah.
the assumptions other people will make with
Correct.
almost no information available to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially in the case of someone being put in ESL classes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
What?
totally. Totally, totally. The assumptions that people make. Yeah, it's so true. And yeah, and this is something, going back to Argentina, this is something that's kind of been brought up a little bit, is the erasure, right? So we know, that indigenous people, African diasporic people have been literally like erased from certain countries. Um, and I was kind of talking with you before we, started recording, how like, for example, like Afro Latinas, Afro Latinos, they're kind of told that they don't fit either box, right? It's like, you speak Spanish, so are you really black? Or you look black, so are you really Latino? These weird, bizarre, categories, right? These boxes and categories that have been created, right? And this is exactly why I wanted to do the podcast, was to talk about Latinidad in its variety, like the multiplicity, um, yeah, yeah. And I did want to kind of circle back to something you mentioned about Europe and language, right? In Europe, I mean, it's common to know at least three languages, two or three,
Minimum two,
right?
I would say. Unless
Yeah.
unless you're from an English speaking country. That's actually what I've noticed more than anything else. If you are
Oh,
from
say
a
more, say more.
that is predominantly English speaking, because,
Mhm.
and I'll explain why I've kind of come to this conclusion. So, Berlin, there's always a joke in Germany that Berlin isn't really Germany. And one of the reasons for that is that Berlin has probably some of the more, I mean, in my experience, my limited experience, let's say, Berlin has some of the most variety of immigration I've ever seen
Right.
in my entire life, which is one of the reasons
Mm.
why I like living here.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not gonna, it's still predominantly white,
Mhm.
but you get people from all over the world who come here, like truly
Yeah,
all over the world, who come
it's
here to
cool.
study, who come here to live,
Mhm.
who end up making their home here. And this is
Yeah.
something that I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
And in the process of living here, I've met people from probably all, like just all over the world,
Mhm.
including people from every single English speaking country. And I will
Mm.
tell you the commonality. If you're from an English speaking country, the chances of you speaking another language are, it's like almost zero.
Really? That's so interesting.
Very few people who come from, yeah, like even like Australia, New Zealand, England, yeah, Ireland, like was, what else have we got? Wales, like Scotland, Northern Ireland, Canada, US.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
know even one person who has since moved back home to Canada. I only really knew maybe one or two people who even made, who were like white and from English speaking countries, who made a
Mhm.
concentrated effort to even learn German. The
Wow.
people I know, again, we're going like kind of in a different direction here, but the people I know who made a real concentrated effort to learn German are people of
Mhm.
color.
Because they wanted to have, to try to really like connect, I'm sure, right? To be able to like integrate and connect and try to like make a life. I'm sure that's why.
Also,
Whereas the English speakers are like, whatevs, I got the top language, so too bad, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's also
Interesting.
to kind of ascertain whether or not someone is like what someone is saying about you. And
Sure. Yeah.
it's interesting because, yeah, like as a white English speaker, or even just as an English speaker in general,
Mhm.
you don't like English is the touchstone language. So you
Mhm.
don't really have, if I'm being completely honest, you don't really have to learn another language to just get
Yeah.
on with your life.
Yes,
Most Europeans,
exactly.
English is their second language.
Right. Right. Most schools, I've noticed that too. Like most schools in Europe, a lot of schools in Latin America, they include English. Like it's kind of like par for the course
Yeah.
in their classes, in their classrooms.
And then some educational systems, like at least I have a couple of French friends, and they told me that within their system, they learn English, and then once they like a couple years after they start learning English, they pick another European language.
Mhm.
So a lot of people I know who are from France speak three languages.
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
And then, our Americans over here are like, I took 2 years of Spanish in school.
And what's kind of like the second part of that, and I don't remember anything, right? I took 2 years of
Yeah,
Spanish in high school and I don't remember a word. Yeah.
you're
That's like
like,
the common. I mean, yeah, it's really, really fascinating to think about language and to think about like the priority, right? The priority that English is given, the priority that anything US is given, USA, right? I remember so clearly, like, so this is something that Steffany and I have talked about. So I lived abroad for a couple, not as long as Steffany, but for a couple years in Spain. But one of the things I noticed is like, oh my God, like so much music from the US, the movies from the US, everything US is kind of being like sent over and it is seen as like the greatest, right? Like, oh, this is a Hollywood film. Oh, this is like a, an artist from the US. Like that is kind of what infiltrates the culture, even internationally. And part of me, I was a little irritated. I was like, I'm in Spain. Like, I want the Spanish movies. I want the Spanish artists. Like, give me my flamenco. So
US
it's
is
super interesting.
incredible at exporting culture. I remember I
Hmm.
had a conversation, it might have been Eric that I had this
Oh, yeah.
conversation with.
Another mutual friend. Yeah.
Another mutual friend of ours. We were talking about how this is just this is how the US exerts its soft power around the rest of the
Yes.
world.
Soft launch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, even here, it is in Germany. Most American movies are dubbed,
Okay. Hmm.
so there are specific actors that replicate the voices of specific
Uh,
American actors. Like they do the
oh,
same thing
funny.
in Italy. They might do the same thing in France. Don't come for me if that's incorrect.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of, and it's not that there isn't a film industry is here. There is, there are a
Hmm.
lot of like, German produced films, and
Sure.
but everybody, I mean, I tell you what, every single person I meet has watched Friends.
Oh, wow.
Every single person I
Oh, man. Oh,
love
my gosh.
for like these American sitcoms that that were pretty popular in the US, but I mean, I
Yeah.
meet people who are 10 years younger than me and they're obsessed
Really?
with Friends.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. That's funny. Oh, my gosh.
And it's just
Wow.
these very specific ways in which the American culture is sort of outsourced to
Mhm.
the rest of
Mhm.
the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You know what's interesting, is another friend that was, on the podcast. They were talking about the show Friends. How interesting, right? And they
Mhm.
were mentioning how, like, looking back or rewatching those episodes, there was issues there. It's like,
Oh,
hello, homophobia. Hello, like a lot of stuff. Like, wait a minute. Like, this is not good. Like,
yeah.
they're not sending their best. No, this is not our best. Like, what is this? Like,
I like to think that it was their best for the time.
correct. Yeah, back then. Exactly. Well, same thing with shows, like Sex in the City. There's a lot of shows, right, that are like iconic shows that it's like, okay, you have to put it in context. You have to remember like when it was written, when it was produced. You can tell by the clothes, you can tell by the references. Like it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, on because Netflix Germany got
Hmm.
all of Friends probably about 5 years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I mean, I watched it when it was on the TV.
On the telly, yes.
And then you have to wait a whole week for the next
Oh,
episode.
yes, I remember. Yeah, absolutely. X-Files was my show. X-Files was my shit, and we were, like, at the television show with the
Yep,
phone in hand after, the commercial breaks, like, "Oh my god, did you see what just happened? The alien, oh my god."
yep, yep. So I've never really seen it just, one episode after
All
the other.
together. Yeah, yeah,
Always
yeah.
on there. So I was like,
Mm.
great, this is going to be a great pandemic activity. I'm going to watch all of them. And I mean, for the most part, it holds up, but there's definitely things that are said and like situations that they get themselves into that you're
Mhm,
thinking, all right, well, I mean, I like to think that we would deal with this differently now.
mhm.
Like there's
Totally.
the one that always sticks out to me is there's an episode where Joey wears women's underwear and
But just that alone, that's all we need to know. Like, it's like
yeah, but he kind of someone kind of basically says like, "Oh, that's a bit girly, don't you think?" And it's just kind of, did that need to be said? Did we
right.
really did we really need to shame someone for
No.
ultimately like wearing whatever they wanted? Probably not, but
Totally. Totally. That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Um, so 2 things that I'm thinking about, as I'm talking with you is, and you let me know which direction you wanna go in, is travel and Catholic school.
Oh,
So, because right, because I mean, like, both of us have gone to Catholic school for a long time,
uh,
and then it's so, as I'm saying this out loud, in our group of friends, like, I'm thinking especially like Nisi, you, Eric, we've traveled a lot. You know what I mean? Like this, like just like wanting to travel, living abroad, like that's been a theme, and I think that's really kind of fascinating to think about.
yeah. Well, let's start with Catholic school. So I I went to Catholic school
Mhm,
because when my parents got married, so my mother went to Catholic school. My mother
mhm.
went to whatever the Catholic school in Oakland was. I don't
Oh,
remember
cool.
what it was called. And
Mhm,
my dad went to public school.
mhm.
So when my parents met and decided to get married, they met at Santa Clara, which is obviously another
Oh, Jesuits. Yeah, that's cool.
institution.
Yeah.
But so they met there and they decided to get married. And my dad had said to my mom that he thought her Catholic school education, religion notwithstanding, had been
Mm,
so far and above what he'd received at public school
mhm.
that he wanted to send his kids to Catholic school
The quality. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because it
That's
would be
fair. Yeah.
less expensive than private school.
Ah,
So
I
it was
see.
like
I
a
see. Right.
total practical decision. It
Yeah.
really had nothing to do
Sure.
with religion whatsoever.
No, sure, and there's a lot of family, you know what? Like, I've heard from a lot of families that that is exactly the the thought, right? Is like, okay, especially in LA. Oh my God, girl, public school system, LAUSD. God bless those kids, God bless those teachers, and there needs to be an intervention. You know what I mean? Like, because the kids are not getting the education that they deserve. Anyway, but so I get it. That makes sense.
Conversation about the status of public school within the
Oh,
United States
so bad.
really like
It's
we need to
painful.
stop using property taxes to pay for that stuff. We need to start like
Something.
equitably distributing
Something's got to
wealth
give. Yeah.
around. We need to start putting more funding into education. I mean, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny, like, in class all the time, I say, like, "Oh, people talk about, like, children, 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 children." Children are the most abused and neglected in this society.
Yeah.
Like, what do we s don't stop fronting that you care about children. There's no evidence for this at all. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there's no, yeah, no, I mean we agree. Um but yeah, so my parents decided they wanted to send us to Catholic school.
Mhm, mhm,
And the really kind of interesting thing about that is that my dad's Greek Orthodox and my mom's
mhm,
so
mhm.
I grew up going to two different churches.
Oh,
Two
cool, I
different
didn't
religions.
realize that you also went to, like, Greek Orthodox churches.
Oh
That's
yeah.
cool.
My
Wow.
on my dad's side, his grandfather,
Mhm,
yes, his grandfather immigrated from Greece and he
mm.
helped build the Greek Orthodox church that my family still goes to there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
I
dope.
also
Wow.
I also grew up going to like the Greek festival at the Greek Orthodox Church.
Oh my
And
god, there's a Greek festival like 2 weeks ago over here, I think it's St. Sophia's, here, it's, like, kinda near USC. Love it, love it, love
they're
it.
so good. I ate so many Lucumatis one year
Oh,
that I
yeah.
can't even smell them anymore. It's so
It's so delicious. Oh my god, Greek food is so good, oh my
oh,
god.
but so he and my mom, they got married at Santa Clara. What they
Mhm.
wanted was to get married in the church at Santa Clara, but with a Greek Orthodox priest.
Oh.
Apparently, the Catholic Church didn't have a problem with that. It was the Greek Orthodox priest who thought it would be disrespectful.
Oh, how interesting. Ah. So it's a Greek Orthodox, like, the what is it? The priest or the leadership was like, "No, no, no, you can't do."
Yeah,
Wow, interesting.
yeah. But or at least the diocese that governed that particular church
That
kind
area, yeah.
of, okay, that's actually kind
Wow.
of, which I thought was interesting.
Fascinating. Hmm.
But when my parents got married, my dad had to sign that piece of paper that said that he would raise his kids Catholic.
Oh, yep. Mhm.
Paper that I thought Catholics only forced Protestants to sign, like back when I was an active issue.
You
But
know, no, you know what? Like, that if that's one thing that I've learned in so many years of theology is, like, it's family beef, basically. It's family beef between the Greek and the Protestant and the Catholics, like, that's real. That's, like that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
and he said he didn't have a problem signing it because he wanted to send us to Catholic school anyway. So
Is it that works? That's cool, yeah.
and he was like, whatever, it's
Right
fine.
on.
We're bringing them to both churches anyway. um,
I
so
love
yeah,
it.
I went to a K through 8 in Livermore, California,
Mhm.
called St. Michael's, and I don't know. It was we. I remember I have fond memories of one nun who was the principal of the school, Sister Emmanuel. She had one of
Oh,
the best senses of humor I've ever encountered in my entire life. She was freaking
oh.
awesome. And then there was a priest that I also really liked called Father Adams, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
But other than that, for me, it was just like I started to get quite mouthy in middle school. Like,
You, Stephanie?
yeah.
Outspoken? I can't imagine. Like
When I was a kid, religion to me was like a fairy tale. It was this
Oh.
collection of stories, and I mean, I have a sort of romantic sensibility. I've always loved fairy tales. I've always
Yeah.
liked myths
An
and
avid reader, always, for sure. Yeah.
and that's what the Bible was, especially the Old
Yeah,
Testament. It was just this
yeah. It's
collection of
myth.
stories.
It's myth, and no one come at me either. Like, don't freak out, people. It is myth. Like, okay, yeah.
In my Catholic school, we were taught that the Bible is divinely inspired, which meant that, and of course, like there, I'm aware that different religions interpret the Bible in different ways, and even different
Sure.
facets of Catholicism even interpret the Bible in different ways.
Yeah,
But the way I was
truly.
taught was that the Bible was divinely inspired and
Mhm.
that it is not the absolute literal word of God, and that it is, in essence, a collection of stories for us to disentangle and
Yeah.
create meaning for.
Wisdom, guidance, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
But as
Totally.
I got older and I started to learn more about the way the church treats women or the way
Yeah.
the church has historically, honestly, it was mostly this innate, the way the church treats women, at least at that
Yeah,
time,
sure.
that just made me angry. I remember getting into an argument
Absolutely.
my eighth grade teacher. I said to her, what if I never want to have children or get married? Because she was saying you can only get married if you want to have children. That's the only
Oh, wait a minute. Oh my god. Are you serious?
I know. It's the most
Oh, no.
ridiculous. I think she had some trauma because she and her husband were never able to have children.
Oh, so it's
So
more so her projecting or her personal issues and trauma that she was, like, spilling
onto
out onto her students, yeah.
14-year-olds.
No, oh my gosh.
Grade. But
That's crazy. No.
I remember her saying you only have business getting married if you want to have children. And even at
Wow.
14, I knew I probably didn't want to have kids. So I remember saying,
Wow.
so you mean if I find, let's say, the love of my life, but I decide I
Right.
never want to get married or I never want to have children, and I want to, let's say, travel all the time, spend my summers in the French Riviera, like I still have to have children or like I have no business getting married. And she was just like, if that's what you want your life to be like, then you shouldn't get married at all. And I
Oh, no. Oh, no. I can't believe this. No, she had no business. She had no
no,
business saying these things. Oh my gosh.
but
Wow.
I I just remember thinking
Wow.
I knew at that time that that was probably more her opinion than
Good
any
for
kind
you.
of
Thank
argument
goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah.
opinion. But you know, we also had debates in middle school about like should women be priests?
Yeah.
What was oh, my seventh grade teacher had us do this really fun exercise where
Mhm.
we did a mock courtroom
Oh,
with
okay.
uh, Eve, Adam, and the snake.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love
So
it.
all the
The
lawyers
snake
and
on trial. I love it.
yeah,
That's cool.
and I got to be the
That
snake.
was clever. That's great.
It's clever, right?
Yeah.
So I really liked that, but I think I just more and more started to get into this opinion of like I don't like this structure. And to be fair, I've always been
Yeah.
a little rebellious and I don't like it when people tell me what to do and I don't like it when people tell me what to
Hell,
think.
you and me both. Yes, we're cut from the same cloth. Don't tell me what to do. Like exactly,
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
worst thing. No, 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 no. Are you
Like,
an Aries as well? Are you an Aries? I think so. Yes.
no, I'm a Taurus, but
Taurus. Okay, okay.
my Mars is in Aries, which is
There you
apparently
go. Okay, I knew. I'm like, she has to have Aries somewhere, like in a significant placement.
yeah,
Um, yeah. No, that's it's so real. It's so real. Oh my gosh.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, I just, but the way my nana, the Argentinian one, dealt with
Yeah.
Catholicism was so like, like, what's the right word? Like mythological.
Mm-hmm.
She insisted. So
Mm-hmm.
I have on that side of the family, I have two cousins, and they're both quite a bit younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my cousins is 12 years younger than me, and the one that I'm talking about right now is like 14 or 15 years younger than me.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So I'm his godmother
Okay. Mm-hmm.
because my aunt got him baptized because my nana insisted that he was possessed.
No. Oh no. Wait, what?
Insisted
She was
that we
convinced. She
get him
was
baptized.
convinced. Oh no.
We had to get him baptized because he was possessed, and this was the only way that was going to cure
Right
him of his.
away. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh
We
my
had to
gosh.
do it. And my aunt had gotten my other cousin baptized again, like at the insistence of my nana. They didn't really
Mm-hmm.
care so much. They were like, whatever, we'll get her baptized. It's
Sure.
gonna make
Yeah.
her happy. And then they were kind of wavering when it came to their second kid. Like maybe we don't really need to do this. And then yeah, Nana comes out. He's possessed. He's possessed. We have to do it. They asked me and my brother to be godparents, and I
That's
told
cool.
her, well, we were never confirmed. I don't think we're technically supposed to be godparents.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, well, they didn't ask. So if they don't ask you, just don't say anything.
Don't say nothing.
Keep your mouth shut.
I love it.
Okay. I mean, it was a
That's
church
hysterical.
somewhere in Walnut Creek. I think they were just like, great, kids are getting baptized. We're
Sure.
just not
Yeah.
asking any questions.
We love that. Yeah, exactly.
But I always remember, I mean, she may have had a point because when my brother was holding, my cousin,
Yes.
and the priest was sprinkling him with holy water, he did growl at the priest.
No.
I'm not. I wish I was
Okay.
joking.
No. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Oh my
100%
god.
true story. And I remember when he did it,
Growling at the priest. Oh no.
he
Oh my
literally
gosh.
growled at the priest. And my brother looked at me, we kind of locked eyes and went,
Yeah.
oh God, did she,
Did
did
that
she
just
just,
happen?
did that just happen? What's going on?
Oh my god. That's unbelievable. That's insane. But hey, you know what I mean? It's like let's put a little extra holy water here. It's like
Yeah, like she might be,
oh my gosh.
I don't know.
That's so funny. Wow. Oh man. So okay, so I have to ask. So with all that being said, um tell me a little bit in terms of like the path to USF because USF is a Jesuit institution.
No one else would take me.
Oh. Oh my goodness. You were so funny, Steffany. Oh my gosh.
um,
I don't know, but then we wouldn't have met, like it was meant to be.
without going, so I wanted to study theater. I thought I
Mhm,
was going to study theater.
mhm.
That was my plan. My dad told me right before I'm starting to like write up all of my applications, you're
Uh-oh.
not studying theater, that, there's no future in that. And so
Oh
kind of
no. Yeah.
university plans were derailed a bit. And so I kind of like followed
Oh.
along. I went to Oregon State for a little bit. And
Mm.
honestly, the reason I chose USF in the end is because Eric went there, like our mutual friends went there.
Yeah.
Eric went there. I had always thought I would go to LA, honestly. I thought I would go to
Oh,
Loyola Marymount.
interesting. Oh,
Uh,
really? I didn't know that. Oh, funny.
yeah, I always assumed I would go somewhere down south, whether it be like Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, something like I just thought I
Mhm.
would go somewhere down south. And then when Anders and I, again, another friend, my ex-husband actually, Anders, when Anders and I started dating, he was living in 1287 with everybody
Oh my
else.
god.
And I started to really fall in love with San Francisco.
Mhm,
And I think I went on the USF campus a couple times. Like I visited
mhm.
Eric in the dorms. I think that's
Oh, yeah.
probably what you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
started to fall in love with the
Yeah.
campus. I
Mhm.
knew that it was a Jesuit school, but the thing is, I don't know if the Jesuits are just trying to make up for their actions in a past life or what, but
But they're
they're
pretty chill, honestly, like, it's chill, like, it's pretty cool, yeah.
I mean, I got my undergraduate and my master's degree at Jesuit universities, and I would
I love it.
say that I mean, the education at USF and at Boston College was excellent. It was incredible.
Yeah.
You have small class sizes.
Mhm.
But, Jesuits are pretty chill.
Yeah.
There was really, especially by the time you get into university, I'm not even sure I needed to do any religious classes.
There might have been, like, I can remember for, like, LMU, it's, like, usually, like, 1 or 2 classes, but it's you could take anything, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
could take, like, yoga, Buddhism, Hinduism. It didn't have to be Catholicism necessarily. Religion and film, I mean, um, but that's super cool. That's awesome.
And
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it.
I mean, I think just because I am not necessarily religious,
Mhm.
I think that there is value in, let's say, like supporting an organization that is going to prioritize education.
Yeah.
And I think that there's
Yeah.
value in
I love that.
respecting any kind of organization that's doing good work, whatever that looks like. And
I
it's
love
not
that.
up to me to define what someone else is going to believe, as long as that doesn't have any impact on what I
Mhm.
believe or what I'm
Sure.
going to like. That's kind of the heart of having respect for like our fellow human beings and allowing there to
1,000%.
be like multiple different kinds of discourse.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Totally.
I think I also when I was looking for my applying for master's programs, I also applied to Seattle Pacific University, which is a Christian
Mhm.
university. That was a
Oh,
different
interesting.
that was a
Yeah.
different vibe. I elected. I
Mhm.
think I did get in there. I really liked the campus. I enjoyed the teachers that I met very much. They were incredibly
Mhm.
smart, conscientious people.
That's cool.
The way that they talked about God was very present in everyday conversation, very
That's
present
great.
within the curriculum. It wasn't for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember
And
talking to
that's
one.
you know what I mean? And good for you for, like, recognizing that. Do you know what I mean? I think that that's to see it and be like, this is not really the vibe for me." Like, that's yeah. No, good for you. That's cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
I
I
remember
love
talking
it.
to my cousin about that, and because he's Christian, and
Mhm.
he's the cousin I probably get along with the best.
Mhm.
Hopefully, my other cousins don't hear this and might get they're gonna come for me. But I remember when I told him about that interview, he's like, "Ah, those are my people," and I was like, "I know." like, like
Hilarious.
I heard echoes of you all over that campus, and I love that for you, and I
It's
love that for
great.
them.
Yeah.
Not my vibe.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah, and it, like going back to like Jesuit education, that's why I felt very comfortable and I really liked it because there was such a commitment to education of the whole person, social justice, yeah, like volunteering, doing different, you know what I mean? Like doing different things to help the community, that kind of stuff. Like that was really awesome. I thought that was really beautiful and it meant a lot to me. So yeah, I really like what you said that like these organizations can really do something positive, in the world. And that's fantastic. So cool. I love it.
In my counseling
Um,
curriculum at Boston College, that's like I had an entire class that dealt with
mhm,
like systematic oppression. That's the first time I learned the word white privilege was in 2009 in my counseling course at Boston College, which is a Jesuit university.
mhm, mhm.
So, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, yeah. They're definitely the most progressive, I would say, of the religious orders and stuff like that. Um, cool. Yay! This is so good, Stephanie. As we kind of wrap up our amazing conversation, I always try to close with some words of wisdom. So I kind of ask each person that I've interviewed, what is some advice you would give to young people today, young Latinas, and or what advice would you give to your younger self? So I leave it up to you on how you'd like to answer.
It's kind of a hard one for me to answer because at least when I look at my life, every single
Mhm.
decision I made led to something else, which led me to exactly where I am now. And so there's not
Mhm.
necessarily something that I would change.
Sure. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what I always tell, let's say my like younger cousins, I have
Yes.
a niece
Mhm.
who's 17. The things
Mhm.
I would say are travel as much as you can, do the study abroad
Mhm.
program,
Totally.
get wherever it is that you live, get somewhere else. If that means you live in California and you can only manage Boston, go to Boston. If
Mhm.
that means
Mhm.
that you are up for going to another country, go to another country. And also, if it makes you nervous, do it in steps. I did it in steps. I went from
Yeah.
a small town in the Bay Area to San Francisco to Boston to
Mhm.
Baltimore
Mhm.
to Berlin.
Mhm.
I kind of got comfortable with like bigger cities and different cities before I
In
made the
different
jump.
places. Mhm.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like be as loud as you want to be. The other thing that I kind of
Be
wrestled with all the time is
Mhm.
I felt when I was younger, I felt as though there were certain opinions I couldn't voice or certain things that I couldn't say.
Mhm.
All of this was kind of like in service of being liked or just like not getting in trouble,
Mhm.
not being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And then I had this weird turnaround as I got a little bit older where I
Mhm.
had absolutely no filter on my mouth and I didn't really understand what was going to be a valuable thing to say or like constructive
Mhm.
thing to say versus what I just needed to get out of my brain and my
Off
mouth
your
because
chest. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like I'd been silent for so long. So
Mm.
understand that there's a difference between being loud and being rude. They're not the
Mhm.
same things.
Right.
And I think there's all like listen to that voice inside of you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That
Mhm.
voice is not going to lead you astray.
Right.
And yeah, just
Mhm.
don't be afraid to say the thing, to do the thing, whatever it is.
I love it. Yeah. Oh.
And yeah, eat as much as you want. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe
Exactly.
exercise a little bit because your joints do like there will come a time when your joints start to turn on you
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. The knees start to ache, back starts to hurt.
drinking the bad like the $2 glass of wine. But yeah,
I love it.
like worrying about what your body looks like is something I know. I feel like every single like older woman has always said this to every other woman since the beginning of time, but I think it's worth
Was
repeating.
like, but really, like, yeah.
Really, really, really. Like
Mhm.
take care of yourself because you want your body to last, but like
Correct.
eat the cheeseburger if you want the cheeseburger.
1,000%.
Like
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love everything you said. It's true, like speaking up, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like society just tries to silence women. I don't know if part of it's like a cultural thing. I'm not sure. But like, yeah, as young women, we're told to kind of like be seen and not heard a lot of times, right? And not speaking
Be,
up. So,
be palatable. That's
yes,
what it is. Be palatable.
palatable, be acceptable.
And not
Yeah.
that anyone's doing that with any sort of malicious intent, but
It,
those are the messages that we absorb.
those are the messages. And actually, ironically, I think sometimes our families, our parents say that to protect us in a
Yeah.
way, right? It's like, oh, don't get too loud, don't do this, don't do that, because you might get in trouble, or someone might think poorly of you, and that skirt's too short, watch out. It's all that. Um, so yeah, I really love what you've said, Stephanie, and this is awesome. Oh my
Thank
gosh. Thank you so much, Steph. It was so good to talk with you. I know that everyone's going to really love this episode. This was so good.
I hope so.
Yes. And that's Steph's kitty right there, Maisie. Oh, hi, Maisie. Maisie wanted to be on the podcast too. Okay.
All right. She does this every
Thank you
time.
so much. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie, again for being on the podcast, Gold Hoops and God podcast. You can find us everywhere where the podcasts are available. So if you do Apple or let's see, Spotify, all those different sites, there's a Facebook page. Also, you can join the Facebook page, and the interviews are also available on YouTube, so you can watch our conversation.
Woohoo.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.